What is up, everybody? Murray and J08. I am back with a Photoshop tips and tricks tutorial. This is actually highly requested. Whitening teeth. This is pretty cool. Now, I get asked this a lot. I have covered this in the past on the series, but I like to redo these a lot of times because different versions. And also, there's always more than one way to do things, and sometimes I like to do things a little differently. There's multiple ways to do each project in Photoshop. Much like a lot of things. I could get in here, and this ain't the best example because, believe me, I've gotten photos from people with yellow teeth, real yellow, rotten teeth, you know. This is an okay example. I'm going to show you before and after once it's done. Now, like I said, I could get in here with a brush, with a mask. I could get in here with different multiple techniques. We're gonna simplify it to save time, because say you're doing a big portrait retouching workflow and you don't have an hour to spend on teeth, but you want them to look good. That's what we're gonna do today. I'm always trying to save you guys time because I know time is valuable. Now, I am going to be doing what's called, in the next few episodes, portrait retouching. We're going to be specifically doing videos that relate to how do you retouch a portrait. I've broken it down into whitening teeth, smoothing skin, retouching blemishes and removing marks and pimples, sharpening eyes, sharpening hair, sharpening, jewelry, anything that's going to stand out, and popping out and sharpening and brightening the whites in eyes. I'm going to be doing these individually, and then what we're going to do is we are going to do a very special episode at the end where we do this all together on a different image on a portrait that I shot. We're going to be doing this. It's going to be called My Portrait Retouching Workflow. It's going to involve every single thing you've learned. We're going to do it together all at once at the end of the series. This is a question that I get all the time. How do you retouch a portrait? And as you can see here, this is one of the things that I like to fix is teeth. So for this example, we're going to use the magic wand tool. Now you have minus and plus to add to the selection or to take away from this selection, okay? So as you can see, we are adding to the selection. All right? And it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Okay, now if it was to get crazy, I changed the value so it doesn't go overboard. If this was to get crazy, you could also minus. Like if it went into the gums, which isn't too bad. If it went into the mouth or outside of the area, especially if you're working on an actual portrait picture, you could do also minus. Okay? You're working on that, on those teeth. It's got a decent selection, right? Now, what I like to do is I like to deal with Hue Saturation Illuminance when dealing with teeth, specifically the color yellow, which is the problem that you usually have with teeth. So we're going to go and we're going to add a layer. Now, as you can see, because we did it on the selection, in the layer mask, which automatically applies because we added a blending mode, a layer adjustment, it's got the teeth marked in white. Our selection. We don't want to apply it to the entire channel, so what we want to do is specifically, we want to target the yellows. Now, you could get crazy with this. What I like to do is shoot the saturation all the way down. That's going to bring your whites out, but also to further it, we're going to boost the lightness to about in the 70s. You could also mess with the target range down here, but I wouldn't go too crazy for this example. There's other ways of doing this, but we are going to move it a little bit to the left. Now, I know what you're saying. You're starting to get what's called porcelain mouth or fake mouth. Not a problem, because we're going to address that in just a few minutes or a few seconds. Let's close this out. So there you go, right? Before, after. But it looks like a mannequin. Remember, everything is on its own layer and its own channel. So we have what's called here opacity. Well, by default, it's set to 100. Everything is set to 100. So we're going to start actually dialing that down. Now, this is to taste, and it also depends on your picture. It depends on a lot of things. Let's just try that. So, before, after. Now, I'm overdoing things. A word of note, when I do these tutorials, I always like to exaggerate in my values because of how it translates over the internet, how YouTube degrades the video, how everything is uploaded. Even like when I'm doing direct capture of like a game, I always boost the contrasts and the brightness because it's going to dial it down. So you may not want to use this high of a value when you're actually doing this. I'm doing it for the purposes of the video so you guys can see the difference. But I think that looks pretty good. Not bad. Before, after. Before and after. And you got to think, how long did that take? Again, we could have brushed in each tooth. We could have duplicated the layer and made it on its own layer with a layer mask and inverted the mask. We could have targeted the color range and went after specific colors. Listen, if I'm working on a big project, I want to try to spend the least amount of time on each thing, but also get the best results. And I found that this method is a good, fast workflow for teeth. So there you go. Whitening teeth in Photoshop. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I hope to see you again soon on the next Photoshop tips and tricks tutorial. We will be doing more portrait retouching techniques, but I also have some other things on the side that I'll be throwing in also that I think you guys are going to be interested in. Some pretty cool tips and tutorials. And some Lightroom stuff, too. Take care, guys, and I hope to see you again soon.